That's right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How you doing this morning? We got a real special show for you here today. Penny is right here. She's got her patriotic, I don't know if you can see Penny in the picture here this morning. Hey, Penny, look over here before we get to John here. There you go. Are you ready for an interview, Penny? I'm always ready for an interview. That's right. This morning we've got Representative John McCravy with us. He, of course, represents District 16, which is Greenwood and a little bit of Lawrence. He is, of course, a conservative voice in Greenwood, and he's never shy about standing firm on the issues. So we're going to be talking to John this morning, finding out what happened in the last session that is now over and what he anticipates coming out with the budget, and who knows what else we'll get into. So, good morning, John. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Ann. I'm great.
It's kind of, this rain has been a little bit unbelievable.
It really has. I noticed Sunday we got almost 2 inches of rain in one day at my house. So, I mean, it's been coming down.
Absolutely. Did you happen to drive by the 7-Eleven up there on 72 and everything? Their whole portico there is down.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah. It's there's been some damage. There's been some trees down. So be careful out there if you're driving. But John, it's that time of the year where you're back up for re-election again.
Yes, ma'am. It sure is. And we're working hard.
And I think the big issue that everybody wants to know about is redistricting. And it is the hottest issue, I think, not only in South Carolina, but across the nation. This has become a big thing. So the House has already passed it. Why was it important to move this now?
Well, it's very important, in our national situation. The one thing we don't want is for the Democrats to get control of Congress again and spend the next 2 years trying to impeach Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. I mean, we got a lot of things to do in this country. We got a lot of business to take care of, and I think our president is working hard to do that. I support him 100%, and I think we've got to stop. We've got to prevent a stalemate from coming for the next 2 years. So to do that, South Carolina can contribute. I said last August we should redistrict. Unfortunately, the leadership didn't see it that way, and they kept saying no, no, no until Donald Trump gave them a phone call, and things changed.
Why would they say that? Why would they say that? Curiosity.
Well, I can't ascribe to their motives. I can just say that they did not, and now it's caught up with them because here we are at the last minute trying to do what we should have done a year ago. And that's caused a lot of the inconvenience and a lot of the things that are going to happen. But nevertheless, it's important. And here's why. In the South, southern states, we were the Voting Rights Act was imposed on us in the 60s. And as a result of that, southern states like South Carolina were required to draw at least some minority representation. So we had to gerrymander to try to get a minority. Mm-hmm. And so the Supreme Court all of a sudden changed that. We knew it was coming. We knew it last August it was coming. Mm-hmm. But they did change it. And now it's unconstitutional to do what they said was constitutional before. And so now we're faced with, we have one district in our state, Congressman Clyburn's district. It looks like a salamander. It really does. And the reason is because it was drawn so he could get elected. He was the one that basically had all the input into drawing that, but we had to do it because of the Voting Rights Act. Everybody had to go along with it so it would be constitutional. Well, now everything's changed, and now they've told us in South Carolina, you cannot discriminate on the basis of race. Race cannot be one of the factors when you're drawing your district. It's got to be fair fair in other ways, but race is not part of it. So that's why we're redrawing our districts, and frankly, up north, our Attorney General Alan Wilson testified, and he did a good job on this. He testified at our hearing in the House that there are 6 northeastern states who all have approximately 40% Republican voters, but yet they have 21 representatives and not a single one of them is Republican. Why is that? Because they drew it based on politics. Well, every other state's been doing that. We've been prevented from doing that because of the Voting Rights Act. That's no longer there. So we're just catching up to what the Democrats have been doing all along. So you know, and if you think about it, people say, well, that's not fair. It's not fair that 40% of your state is Democrat, but yet you don't have a Democratic congressman. Well, look, when we vote for president, 40% of our state might be Democrat, but if the Republican wins, all of our electors go and vote Republican.
Right.
So it's not unfair in that sense. You know, it's winner take all, and that's basically what it is with Congress too. So that's what it's turned into all the other states, and we need to follow suit to give our Republicans a chance to win in the midterms.
Do you have any problem with the fact that we didn't draw the districts here, that this was drawn by Washington, D.C.?
Well, you know, they have, you know, I don't really have a problem with that myself. They certainly, you know, there's no way to draw a perfect map. I've been through this process before.
Yeah.
During COVID. It was terrible because Biden didn't do his job on the census during COVID. We didn't get the census till way late. That's what took years in the process. People talk about years. It doesn't take years to do this, Ann. But there's no good way to draw up a map, no matter, you know, on our current map, Spartanburg's cut in half. You know, so, I mean, it's not – there's really no good way to do it. When you draw a line, you're drawing somebody out on the other side of the line.
Right.
And so there's no real great way to do it. I think this map is just as good as any I've seen. It does tend to keep, you know, sections of the state together. Now, you know, there are some that, because of the different population areas, we've got to go into certain areas to get population. But, you know, so it's not perfect, but I think it's as good as it can get. And that's what we were guaranteed by the White House and all their team, the teams up there. They've gone over this map, and they said it's about as good as we can get. Each district is a R plus 10 or 11. So that's the least majority we have. So it shows you our state is Republican. There's no question about it. And it's not to say
areas are getting a little purple, aren't they, though, down there on the coast?
Yeah, if you go local, yes, we have some purple areas, definitely. But overall, our state is strongly Republican.
Yes, absolutely. So, but what about doing it now, doing it before this? Could it not have waited till after the election?
Well, I don't think so. I think it's very important to do it now, because if we can give the Republican side one more seat in Congress, it may come down to that. It's going to be that close this time. So I think it's important to do it now. And it's been important for a year to do it now. It's just that the leadership didn't get moving until right at the last.
I want to go. What about this leadership, John? What are we going to do about this leadership that really keeps you guys from getting a lot of things done that need to be done? And you've had your run-ins with leadership.
I have, and you know, it's just, I guess it's part of politics, you know, and right now our leadership has stopped a lot of decent bills from getting out. They have passed some good bills, so it's not all bad, it's not all good, and I'm sure it's always that way. And you know, I happen to be a very, very conservative guy, and I think I come from a very, very conservative district. And so you know, we're going to always probably in Greenwood and the upstate, we're going to be a little bit to the right of what this leadership does, because we're weighted by the lower part of the state and other areas. So, you know, it's in a big general sense, that's kind of the way I see it. But we continue to fight for what's right, and that's the only reason I'm down there is to fight for what's right, not for my pocketbook, not for special interests and that kind of thing. So we're going to continue to stand up for our Christian conservative principles.
So what's going to happen today down there in the Senate? Any predictions, since this is the day?
Well, we had 3 days of debate in the House. This is another day that they're debating in the Senate. They don't have quite the votes. They've got a majority. If a majority could vote on that bill right now and pass it, the problem is they've got amendments put on it, a lot of filibuster put on it by the Democrats, and 5 Republicans who are crossing over to help the Democrats. So that's what's holding it up. Inevitably, it could be passed. If they're willing to sit there long enough, they can pass this bill. But they got to be willing to sit there and take it. We had to take a lot in the House till we changed the rule on them in the middle of it. We had to, because they would have taken weeks and months. So we can't have the whole process grind to a halt. So we hope that the Senate will be able to sit there and fight this off and get it done.
Well, they do consider themselves the deliberative body, John.
Well, they're proving that.
Okay, all right. Well, so you predict at the end of the day, do you think it'll happen today, or are they going to take more than a day or so? This is the first day of early voting. It's
hard to predict the Senate for sure, but I predict it'll keep on going for a while. It might even go till, June the 5th I think is a drop dead day on this. So they've got to get it done before June the 5th, but we'll see.
Okay.
I just don't know.
Well, being a conservative guy, how do you feel about the cost that it's going to cost us?
Well, I am conservative, and I don't like to waste money for our state. We've wasted a lot of money, the things I've voted against. But, yes, it'll cost a good bit to do a special election, but we have special elections all the time in our state. If somebody goes out of office, you have a special election. Somebody dies, you have a special election.
Sure.
Somebody goes to jail.
But it's not the whole state. It won't
right.
be the whole state when you have those special elections.
Well, you could. I mean, we've prepared for these contingencies. So, yes, it's money, but it's an investment in our entire republic, and to keep our democracy and to keep our republic in place, it does require money, and it requires elections. And so I think that's money well spent. To me, that's political infrastructure. Just like you got one of the core functions of government is to keep our roads paved. I think another core function.
Well, I'll give you an F on that one now, John.
I know, but I'm just saying it is a core function, and a core function of government also should be to keep our elections fair and free and safe. So this is part of it, and that's part of the process. So,
but now, just to be devil's advocate, what happens if the Senate fails or the courts disagree on this? What if you have a court challenges? This could be tied up for months, couldn't it?
Well, there's all kind of possibilities out there, Ann. Nobody can predict how it's going to turn out. I wish I could. I don't have that ability.
It could be a problem, right? It could be a problem.
It could be, just like anything. I mean, it seems like every time we pass a good bill in Columbia, the Democrats sue us for something. So, it's going to be lawfare, no doubt about it. That's the way we are in America today.
It is different. But let's move on. We have had some comments on Facebook. Let's see. He just said it. We need to give the Republicans one more seat in Congress. This is not about fairness. This is about making sure Republicans win.
Well, it's part of it. Just like the example I gave about the electors. If you win, you win, and so that's part of democracy. Is you have to face it. If you don't win, you may not be represented. Your party may not be represented. So when Republicans win, Republicans get to be those representatives.
Exactly. Well, we could talk more about it, but let's move on. Let's talk about some of the wins. Let's talk about some of the wins and maybe some of the losses. But what wins did you feel the House and I guess the Senate came together on?
Well, I think we had some good legislation that went through this year. There's a lot that didn't, and we'll talk about that. But I think we were able to cut taxes on several things. The income tax was cut. although in a way that I didn't necessarily agree with. But nevertheless, we did cut income tax. We lowered the boat taxes. If we're talking about taxes, that was something that I don't have a boat, so I wasn't stung by that. But a lot of people in the state did. They were getting charged almost 11% for a boat tax. They were paying more for the taxes than they were for the boat. And then they were double taxing the outboard motors.
Right.
So we did away with that,
right,
and dropped that tax down. But on the number one thing to me, the number one job that we have as legislators is to protect our children and set them up for success in life. To me that's job one. And so we've done that in the past. We've put an SRO in every school. We've increased teacher pay, and we're going to do that again this year. I think both houses agree on that. We're going to get them up to over $50,000 starting pay, and then we've also done those step increases every year. It's not just the new teachers that are getting raises; all the teachers are, and we got to continue that because I believe that's important. We've also passed laws protecting our children, particularly girls in sports. We've protected them from that in South Carolina. And this year we were able to pass the Student Privacy Act. It's gone through the Senate and the House now, so it's waiting on the governor. I think the governor's already signed it, but he's going to do a ceremonial signing coming up. And that protects it keeps the biological men, out of the girls' restrooms in higher education and elementary and K through 12. So, we had a situation, it's crazy to think about this and where we've come as a nation, but we've had a situation where we've had boys that are identifying as girls, claiming they're girls, going into girls' restrooms, making girls very uncomfortable. We've had girls that didn't even want to go to the restroom in a school in the upstate because they were scared of it. And so we got to stop that. That's ridiculous.
So been signed? Has that one
been signed? It's been signed. It is a law. So no more men dressed like vampires going into Tri-County Tech girls' restrooms. Okay, so that's over with. So now they can jerk him out of there and put him where he needs to go. So I'm thankful we did get that passed. Also, protecting our children, we did pass the Harmful Social Media Act, which is going to require these social media companies to when they're dealing with children, and they know which ones are children, by the way, they can tell from their algorithms exactly who's a minor and who's not, and to protect them from certain people getting on their accounts, to limit their screen time and that kind of thing. So this is a step forward in regulating this. Unfortunately, they haven't regulated themselves like they needed to. Social media should have been responsible and regulated themselves. Instead, they've gone after profit. And, social media is the number one cause of mental illness for children. Number one. I mean, we've got to regulate it. I hate to do it, but they haven't regulated themselves. And we're going to have to do it.
So is this, I wasn't familiar, is this one actually passed?
It is passed.
In both will it be signed, or has it been signed, or do you know?
I'm pretty sure it's been signed, but it was passed in both houses from my understanding.
Okay.
That was a good bill.
How about the law enforcement?
Yes.
And today is a very special day because y'all passed a law down there. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that one?
So yes, one of the things that we've seen in law enforcement is these leftist organizations doxing our officers. And so this is something new. A lot of people didn't know about in my generation. We'd never heard of doxing, but it was, they're putting their private information out on the internet for everybody to see and to encourage people.
Seen that a lot with ICE agents.
Yeah, encourage them to harass our law enforcement. So we passed a bill keeping their information more private than it ever has been. We need to protect our law enforcement. And, I've always been on the side of law enforcement, back the blue and everything else. So we need to protect our officers. That was a good bill. We also got the HALO bill out there, which so far I think has gone to a conference committee. And the big argument is how far away you want to tell somebody that tries to get up in your face with a cell phone when an officer is trying to do an investigation,
right,
trying to do something that they're in the course of their duties, and they're being interfered with by people getting up in their face. So we passed a law saying, hey, get back a reasonable distance. The House said 25 feet. Everybody was arguing, well, how do you know what 25 feet is? So the Senate's saying a reasonable distance. But I think that bill's going to pass, but they just need to figure out exactly the details on it in the conference committee. So that was another good bill I think that's going to go. The DOT bill is... How
about our Gold Star bill that actually is today, is that day, the day after Memorial Day? That's, I think, important that y'all pass that to remember all those that have lost their lives.
That's exactly right, and nobody deserves our praise and our thanks more than our Gold Star families, and they've sacrificed and given one of their own to get that Gold Star. So I just, my heart goes out to them today, especially, and every day, really. For what they've sacrificed.
And that bill, I think that bill was passing that law to have Gold Star. I think it's called Gold Star Day today, to remember, as a day to remember our Gold Star families.
And we still have bipartisan bills like that go through. Believe me, we do have a lot. You just don't hear about it, but I think all veterans, from all walks, support that in every way.
Absolutely, and after all, with DJ Keller right here. I mean, look
yes.
at this. Look at what we as a community are going through right here.
That's right, Ann. That's been a difficult time for us all. And I hope we learn from it, and I hope good things can come from it. But it was a tragedy, and we don't want to see that again.
Absolutely. So moving along, because we do have a lot to cover. Now, what about this DOT bill, our roads, and some changes y'all want to make to how they are
right.
their office, who's on first, who's in charge.
That's right. So one of our biggest issues with the DOT has been the speed of things moving through, getting projects done. It hasn't been so much the money as it has been getting it done. Certainly part of the problem has been a lack of contractors that are able to do the work. We've gotten a lot done in our county, but we still got some to go. And they're contracted out to do it. It's just when can they get to it. But also, there's also regulations in the way. So when you're talking about, designing a road to but getting all the way through to actually laying the asphalt, it's too much time in there. Right. We got too many regulations holding it up. So we tried to streamline some of those regulations. Also, and a big thing is, you would not believe what the DOT organizational chart looked like. I couldn't even understand it. It had this board and that board and these commissioners right. and those commissioners, and it was a big mess. So what this bill does is cut out all those commissioners, and now it's going to be a cabinet agency like any other cabinet, like DNR or DES, and they're going to control. The governor's going to have a say in who's in that position, and the governor is going to be able to make that position accountable. So instead of all these commissioners that we've been having, so I think that's a good move. It's away from, the legislature just can't control the executive, and we need to get away from that as much as we can in the legislature. So I think
wait a minute. I thought that's what the legislature like, controlling the executive.
No. I mean, we don't need to do that. We need to loose them to be able to get the work done. So this is a thing I think that will make it a smoother organization. It'll enable them to get their work done without interference and without going through a whole bunch of board approval of this, board approval of that, and so I think it'll work. So that's why I supported that bill. It changed a lot. At first, it had some bad provisions in it, but it got changed on the fly, really, and it got changed for the better. Representative Joe White spent a lot of time analyzing that bill in Newberry, and he ended up voting for it in the end, even though he had 15 criticisms of it in the beginning.
Right.
So it turned into a much better bill.
Isn't that the art of negotiation?
It is. It is, and that's the way it works. So anyway, I think it'll be better as a cabinet agency. It'll be smoother without as much regulation and detail that they have to do.
Now, did that pass the Senate also, or just pass in the House?
I believe that one's gone all the way through, Ann. I know it's a time. This is a weird time right now. We have a lot of conference committees. They're trying to, figure out different things about bills, and then they come back, because we're going to come back and be voting on conference committee reports and that kind of thing coming up. But it is a confusing time. But that bill, I believe, is passed.
Now, what about, I read part of it said that if you report a pothole, it needs to be repaired in a week, and you all had put $15 million. My question to you, I think that's great, but what's the penalty if it's not done in a week? That's what I want to know. It's like an oversight, John.
Well, I know. That's really a nothing burger part of the bill to me.
That's important to me.
Just looks, well, we already have it. We already have it, and right now they have a pothole hotline already. And I'll tell you this, in my district, Kevin McLaughlin does a great job. He's our district engineer. He'll get them out there to fix a pothole. We don't have any problem with that. If you report a pothole, let me know about it if you can't get it fixed. If you don't report it and it doesn't get fixed, it'll get fixed quick. So I don't think that's a big deal in our area, but maybe it is somewhere else. But yeah, I think.
So we got the pothole police, right?
We've had them. I mean, we've had them, and the state's liable.
Right.
If they know about a pothole and they don't fix it, they're liable for it. So you can get your property damage on that if you hit one. So I don't think that has been a real issue. But if anybody in my district has got a pothole, let me know. We'll get it fixed.
Well, that is great. Well, when we come back, we are here with Representative John McCravy. He is our representative for District 13. We're going to take a quick break so we can get some of these many commercials that we have to play during our shows. We're going to take a quick break, but we're going to get into property taxes. I want to talk about Scout Motors spending, the island for $32 million, and where the budget still stands. So I hope you're going to stay right here with us. If you've got a comment or a question, we're lighting them up over here on Facebook Live, so make sure you make your comment there. Or you can go to 864-332-9355 and leave a more private comment there. Either way, we'd love to hear from you. We're going to be right back. This is WCRS Radio right here in Greenwood. Take it away.
Hi, this is John McCravy. I've been proud to stand firm for our Christian conservative values in Columbia, and I've advocated for the local issues that impact our community every day. Whether it's protecting Lake Greenwood or simply being available when you need help, I've always believed in being responsive to the people that I serve. If you need me, you can call me directly at 864-396-3110. If you're not in my contact list, text me and leave a message. I'm John McCravy, and I'm proud to approve this message.
Step up to the plate with Greenwood American Legion Post 20, celebrating our 85th consecutive year of proud tradition. This season brings new energy with head coach Corby Long leading the way, building champions in baseball and softball on and off the field. From the diamond to the dugout, we're more than a team, we're family, and it's the best deal in town. Kids 12 and under are free. Join the tradition, bring the family, be part of Post 20's legacy today.
Hi, this is Mark Murph with Gunnels Marine, inviting you to our in-water boat show Friday, May 29th and Saturday, May 30th at Grand Harbor Marina N96. Come step aboard the newest models of Godfrey and Harris pontoons, explore premium features, and even take a ride on the water. We'll also have water sports gear and accessories to get your family ready for the summer on Lake Greenwood. Special event pricing, manufacturer incentives, and financing opportunities available during the show. May 29th and 30th, 10 a.m., open to the public. Stop by, step aboard, and let the summer begin with Gunnels Marine.
Lindsey Graham wants to steal your Social Security. He wants to cut your benefits and raise the retirement age to 70, which is our average lifetime expectancy. My name is Mark Lynch. I'm running for the United States Senate against Lindsey Graham to save your Social Security and protect what you've paid into all these years. I've grown my company over 35 times in the last 40 years, debt-free, and I want to take that experience to Washington to help South Carolinians. In D.C., we'll stop spending, we'll cut the budget, and we'll end this out-of-control inflation. And most of all, we'll protect our seniors' Social Security benefits. Lindsey Graham's legacy is one of putting South Carolinians' interests last. I'm Mark Lynch. Vote for me June 9th to save Social Security for our seniors, rebuild our infrastructure, and build a better future for South Carolinians.
Paid for and authorized by Lynch for Senate.
Oh, that's right. We're right back here on WCRS. Lots of people making comments on our Facebook. Lots of people, you'll have to go back and read them, John. People are being nice to you on Facebook.
Well, I appreciate that.
That's right. That's right. Lots of people saying thank you for what you do for our community. So we are talking with John McCravy. He, of course, is District 13 representative. Today, early voting starts. Early voting starts. So if you want to get out and get that done, please do it. And John, let's see. We were going to get ready to talk about property taxes, Scout Motors spending, that little spit of an island that you love so much, and where the budget stands. So, budget, taxes, and spending. This is going to be the big topic here, I think. One of the things that y'all did this session was a legislative pay raise. Now, it got knocked out last year because it was done in conference committee. This year, y'all did it right. Where are you at on that?
Well, when you say y'all, take that with a grain of salt, because I certainly did not oppose, I did not support a pay raise for myself or anybody else down there. We didn't get elected to go down there and raise our pay. But, you know, I realize that some of these people that do sacrifice a lot to go down there, you know, they have a hard time making ends meet. I mean, I don't know how a young guy with a family and a job can go down there and spend all that time. So
well, most jobs aren't going to allow you to be able to do this.
That's right. That's right. It's tough. So I understand the sentiment, but I'm not for it. It takes away from what we're doing. It's a distraction, and it takes away from the important issues that we're down there for. So to me, it's the wrong thing to do. I've always voted against it. I'll vote against it again every chance I get. You know, our budget, you know, it's always, it's like I said last year, it's like getting a filet mignon meal, but it's got a few insects crawling around in it. You know, I mean, the filet mignon.
Are you talking about maggots?
The filet mignon is the good part. You know, right. we do have a really good budget. We balance the budget every year, unlike Washington. Which has no budget.
Yes, go ahead.
We fund our law enforcement. We fund our Veterans Affairs offices. We fund we fund our teachers. We fund our schools. And so these are things that are very important, and I think we do a good job of 90% of it. But the 10% that is bad is really bad. And so, giving yourself a raise, spending $32 million on this sandbar off the coast out there somewhere.
But they say eventually it's going to be gone anyways.
That's right. That's right. So why in the world, trying to bail out Scout Motors, Scout Motors, there's a big controversy about the Department of Commerce and the local county doing this development.
Put it in the budget to pay $150?
And so they're sticking in another $100 million or $150 million somewhere in there to bail out. To me, Scout Motors ought to be paying for this if they went over the budget. So
isn't it
they
come down to a problem of oversight? Isn't that where we really have a problem here in our state?
Well, sometimes I think in this case there was a bad decision made by the Department of Commerce to guarantee something when they shouldn't have been guaranteeing it. They made a bad deal. Trump would call it a bad deal.
Right.
We had people in government in the executive branch making a bad deal. So I don't want to support when they make a bad deal. I don't want to pay for their bad deal.
So you're against that.
I'm against that, and I'll vote against that too. So we'll see what comes down. The budget also, small amounts do go to things like festivals that have drag shows. I don't think our taxpayers want to fund drag shows. So
I wasn't aware of that one now.
Yeah,
so that's new.
Yeah. So these are the kind of things. There's a myriad of these small things, but there's some big things that really, like I mentioned, that bother me. And I think that money for those boondoggles ought to be going to roads, and bridges, not that stuff.
Now, what will you do if the pay raise goes through, John? What will you do? Will you accept it, or what will you do?
I haven't even thought that far ahead, Ann, but last time I think I signed something saying I didn't want to take it. So I might end up in that category too. I don't know. But I do think they're trying to do it not for this session, but the next session.
Sure.
So I don't know when it goes into effect, and I'll just have to see. But I think we need to be concentrating on the important stuff.
Sure.
We've got a lot of important things that are hung up.
What about the property tax? What about property tax for seniors?
Yeah, so I think I was the first one to propose this in the legislature, but I filed a bill that would reduce our seniors' property. If you're 65 or older, you ought to have at least $1 million exemption on your home. So if you own a home that's less than $1 million, you're going to pay no property tax on your primary residence.
That's the word zero, right?
Zero. Okay. And I think that's the way to go, Ann, because we've had widows who cannot afford to stay in their home because of the price of taxes. And so,
should you have to continue to pay for your house?
Yeah.
After you've paid it,
No. See, that's the thing. You work all your life to pay off your house, but you've still never paid it off because the government basically owns part of it, and they want you to pay them.
But
I think that's wrong.
We didn't do that. We didn't do $1 million, did you, John?
They did not. The Senate, I couldn't get that bill out in the House. I'm trying. I'm still trying. But
so that hasn't passed
But the
yet.
Senate caught on to it. I think somebody over there saw me doing it, and I'm glad they did. And they wanted to pass a more modest $150,000 exemption. I don't even think that's come through the House. I haven't seen it. So for some reason, we're holding that up in the House. The leadership down there is holding that up. And I haven't seen it in the budget. So once again, we got to get to work on some of these things, and I'm going to continue to fight for them because I don't think seniors ought to be paying property tax on their primary house. My goodness.
Absolutely. I think that's been a signature thing that you've wanted to get passed.
Yes, it has. We've also had some things that have not been passed this year that are hung up. DEI. We passed a bill in the House last year and sent it over to the Senate saying we got to get DEI out of our state programs. This stuff is this woke stuff has been incorporated into so many things. Let's just get it out of the state. Let's get it out of the taxpayers for having to pay for this stuff. And, we've got positions in higher education. Your tax money's going to pay six-figure salaries to people who do nothing but think about DEI all day long and how they can incorporate that somehow into everything, which includes the LGBTQ whatever, the alphabet soup there. and other things. So, we don't need to be promoting that from a taxpayer standpoint. So we're trying to get that out. The Senate hadn't taken that up. We passed a good parental rights bill in the House that's gone over to the Senate. And they haven't
Seems like
even
things die over there in the Senate.
Well, they do, and they don't have to run as often as we do. When you're close to the people, you try to get stuff done. So the Senate only has to run every 4 years, so they're not as close to the people as we are. I guess that's the way the founders set it up, but that's the way it is. So parental rights, we passed a great bill that would allow for parents to get the medical records of their minor children that are still dependents. My goodness, and that sounds like common sense, doesn't it? I didn't even believe it.
Should not even be a question, right?
I didn't even believe it was a question until I looked into it and found out that was the case. So a 16-year-old can withhold their medical records from their own parents, and the hospital won't give it to them unless they get permission from that 16-year-old. That's not right.
What? Just how about from an insurance value? Who's paying the dollars here?
Who's paying the freight? If you're paying the freight, you ought to be able to know what's going on.
Exactly.
And, and in schools as well, what's wrong with transparency on curriculum? My goodness, let's at least enable the parents to look and see what curriculum is going to be taught to their child.
Right.
I mean, that seems like common sense to me too, man. But they don't want this in the Senate. And we've seen where parents are the ones that find the bad stuff in the textbooks.
Right.
Unfortunately, the State Board of Education lets it slip through. Unfortunately, we've seen it slip through the school district. Unfortunately, we've seen it skip through the principals and even the teachers. But the parent is the one that catches it because they look at the book and say, wait a minute, what's this in your book? Well, we've even got a situation now where they don't even take their books home. So how are the parents going to ever see it if it's not disclosed? So we just want transparency and disclosure on curriculum in the schools. I mean, that's not too much to ask. We got a lot of good bills. We passed the Ten Commandments bill that would have required posting the Ten Commandments in the classroom. The Senate hasn't taken that up. We passed a debanking bill that's a really good bill that prevents banks from discriminating just because you might be a member of the Republican Party. So they can't discriminate and close down your account if they don't like something you said or some organization you belong to.
This is just supposed to be business, isn't it, John? I mean, what has happened to just straight business?
Well, unfortunately, we've got to continue to legislate and protect what you're saying is just business. We got to protect that now because it's been invaded by a lot of these leftist ideologies. We got to keep them out. We got to keep that out. I don't want any ideology in banking. We don't need anything. Just like education, we don't need to be propagandizing people about these kind of things. Mm-hmm. So in banks, that's something they should pass.
But it sounds like it sounds like when I listen to this, you guys did your job, but not the Senate, right?
Well,
how do you really feel about it? How do you really feel about it, John?
Well, I really feel like a lot of good bills have died in the Senate. Now, it's not always all bad. So some bills that they have killed were good to kill. But, like, for instance, these casinos. I mean, that never even got out in the House. It was about to. It got to the floor. But thank goodness we had activists come in from all of our churches all over the state. We had pastors come. We had a grassroots initiative that I think changed a lot of hearts and minds. I was preaching against these casinos from day one because they bring crime. They bring human trafficking. They bring drugs. They don't bring good jobs. They bring poor paying jobs. The big jobs come in from out of state. So it's and they take it, not to mention getting people addicted on gambling and taking money from people who don't need to lose it. So
what about online gambling, John? I mean, to bring that up, I know you're talking about down there, particularly I think Orangeburg, where they were talking about the casinos. But what aren't people able to gamble online?
Well, they do it even though it's technically not legal in South Carolina. I know that a lot of people are doing it. I don't know how, because I'm not familiar with the exact process of doing that. But here's the thing. Sports betting has become a plague on our society. especially for young men. Young men who are into sports, and that's a wholesome thing. Sports is a good thing,
Right.
and it really is good for society. But betting on it is a problem, and it becomes addictive to a lot of these people who cannot get off of it. I was hearing the story of a pro. NIL guy. Wasn't a pro, but he was in college, and he ruined his whole life because of sports betting. We've got a reporter here in town. I won't mention the name, but he spent 4 years of his life in complete oblivion in his early 20s because for 4 years he was addicted to sports gambling and could not quit. He finally found a way to break loose of it. But it is hurting a lot of young men. And that's the one part of society we're having problems with already.
Sure.
Why add something else into that mix? So I'm not in favor of that. For a lot of reasons.
But isn't a lot of things? We're talking about budget here and everything with Representative John McCravy. We're talking about some of the bills that passed and didn't. But who is in charge of oversight? Because it seems to me a lot of things, money gets put in good places and everything, and then it falls apart because there's not oversight.
Well, I think the DOT is a good example of that. When you have the governor, the buck stops with the governor instead of 5 boards and commissions. That's where it does happen. So, I think we've got to get away from some of the legislative control of things and give it to the executive branch where it needs to be. And so, that's what I'm saying. I think that's important. And then when something doesn't get done, we can make sure it does. So I think the governor can do it first, especially with his cabinet. Mm-hmm. He can make sure things happen. Just like Donald Trump, for instance, as president, he doesn't put up with somebody that's incompetent in one of his cabinet agencies.
No, that's true.
He'll make sure things work, and I think that's what we need out of our governor.
You think that would strengthen the governor's office?
It has. It is going to strengthen the governor's office to be in charge of DOT. I think it will.
Or other agencies. Agencies too.
Yes, and I think we're a little bit out of balance. I think South Carolina has been mainly a legislative state, and we need to be equal. I agree with Ron Reddy on that issue. We need to have equal powers. There's 3 branches of government. They ought to all be co-equal. And so we need to work toward that in South Carolina as well.
Exactly. So, all right. Now, I just want to talk about that, what's it called? Capers Island, that sandbar. I mean, somebody was going to develop it. They got decided they couldn't develop it, so they wanted the government, South Carolina, to pay $32 million.
And let me finish that. And in addition, they filed several lawsuits in the state. They lost every one of them. And now they filed in federal court. Well, why should we settle with them now and pay $32 million for nothing? So we have to authorize that. I'm not going to vote to authorize it.
What happened, though, in the House and the Senate? Have you voted against it, or is it included? That's my question, John.
Yeah, it's going to be included. I'm going to tell you why. I raised my hand and I asked a question at the appropriate place, and I said, is this going to still be in our budget? And the answer was, unfortunately, yes. So the House kept it in, the Senate has kept it in, and it's in the conference committee. I have no confidence we're not going to waste $20 of your money, Ann. That's $20 per taxpayer in South Carolina. So $20 of your money, on the average, is going to go to help pay for a sandbar that we'll never use that's worthless. And so if this happens...
That's a huge issue, John.
It is. And, the problem is, I think, one of the biggest problems is, I don't know what happened in the Attorney General's office with this. Apparently the state was defending this lawsuit in federal court, and all of a sudden they decided to settle. So I don't know what's going to come out of this. I don't know what attorneys are getting this money. It's big money.
$32 million? Yes.
I do know that development company has given out a lot of campaign contributions. So we'll just leave it at that. I certainly wouldn't have taken them, but others have. So we'll see what happens. But I think it's wrong. I'm not going to vote for it. I'm going to continue to talk about how bad it is, and I'll just keep getting myself in trouble. But I'm going to do it.
So they have essentially settled this case, and they're waiting for $32 million. Is that what you're telling me?
I think the settlement, I don't know for sure, but my guess is the settlement is contingent on approving that $32 million. Well, I say keep fighting, because you already won 3 times in state court. Just because you're in federal court doesn't mean you give up. I mean, good grief, I used to file federal cases myself. They're not that complicated. Our number one attorney in South Carolina ought to be able to handle that.
Exactly. $32 million. Well, I am going to be very upset, and we'll be talking about it on this radio station if that goes through. So, John, we've got some pending fights. What else do you have for pending fights?
Well, it looks like we're not going to get up, to my great disappointment, the Human Life Protection Act that would protect babies under 6 weeks old in South Carolina. So we're going to continue to have abortions in South Carolina for birth control.
Up to 6 months. Up to 6 weeks.
To 6 weeks and under. So to me, that's wrong. That's a big disappointment to me. I'll continue to fight to get that out as long as I'm in the legislature, because that's just wrong. But we've talked about a lot of these already that haven't gotten out.
Parental rights, DEI. What about those energy drinks? We didn't talk about that. What happened on that?
Well, I wish they were energy drinks, Ann. I know what you're talking about. The THC drinks and this Kratom. So we got 2 real bad products that are out there in South Carolina. I'll give you an example of the THC drink. I got a friend who went with 5 other adults on a vacation, and one of them on a lark stopped at a gas station. When they stopped at a gas station, he bought a regular size can, and it said hemp on it.
Right.
Well, they went to their vacation spot, and they said, let's taste this hemp stuff. And they poured it out into 6 glasses. Well, guess what? 4 of them got high as a kite and had to go to bed. This stuff is bad stuff, and that was in one drink.
So and that was divided up amongst 5 people.
So what's happened is they've extracted the THC, which is the psychoactive element of marijuana. They've extracted that from hemp, and then they've concentrated it in drinks. So basically, it's no different than taking marijuana. And it's out there in the wrong places. So we got to stop that. And that's a bill that's been debated. I'm for a complete ban on it. I don't mind saying. Some people just want to regulate it. Some people want to put it behind the counter. Some people want to put it in liquor stores. There's all kind of arguments about it. But it shouldn't be out there where you can just open up a door and get that stuff. It's wrong.
It shouldn't be in the gas stations.
No,
for sure.
That's right. That's right. So that's one bill, but it's being hung up. And I hope the federal government's going to fix that in November, which they've already passed a law taking hemp drinks back to real hemp, not these marijuana THC drinks.
Well, the hemp industry is a big industry in South Carolina.
And we've allowed that way in the past. I mean, we realize that people want hemp. It's not psychoactive. It's not something you're going to be riding down the road and all of a sudden you don't know where you're at. Hemp is harmless, but extracting THC from it and turning it into some strong marijuana drink is wrong.
Right.
And so that's what we're trying to stop. And this Kratom stuff, we heard testimony in a subcommittee. I'd never heard of Kratom till this year or last year, but we heard testimony that this stuff is it's just as addictive as an opioid and just as hard to get off, if not worse, than heroin. Yeah. So it's got terrible withdrawal. It's highly addictive. It just doesn't need to be out there. It sounds like morphine almost. We don't sell morphine in a gas station. So that's what this stuff is, and we got to get it out of there. So that's another bill that's hung up in a conference committee right now. We still don't have finality on it.
Now, what about we're hearing a lot about data centers. What about where are we at in the state? I mean, I keep seeing it from other states and how it's taking huge swaths of land, and plus they're not totally safe to be right next to one.
Right. Well, we've got a bill. First of all, some of these data centers were trying to get tax credits. I don't believe in incentivizing big business that comes in here that's going to make plenty of money we don't need to give them tax credits. So we got a bill that I think we passed in the House that stops these tax credits for abandoned buildings. They go in and find some shopping center, some abandoned shopping center, and then build this gigantic thing on it. These data centers are huge, and I don't know if you've ever seen photographs of them, but they're huge. So it's a new thing that we're just learning about. I think they need to be highly regulated. And what I've heard is, and I'm not an expert on data centers. I want you to understand that. But I have heard that they're huge. I do know that they take a lot of water. There's a lot of controversy about whether they contaminate local water. There's no doubt that they produce a lot of noise. And so if they're anywhere close to a house or a subdivision or a residence or a business, they're going to affect that. So my question about it, and they take a huge amount of electricity, huge, Ann.
Exactly.
Well, first of all, we don't need to lose our energy grid to these things, and then we have brownouts in South Carolina. I'm going to make sure that never happens. But second of all, some people say they should generate their own electricity. I kind of agree with that.
The mini.
But But then there you go. You're going to set this up in a residential community, in a farming community. I don't think so. I think my solution to it is everywhere we have a nuclear plant, that's probably where we ought to put one.
Yeah.
And I know it's a national security issue. I know this administration is pushing hard to get these data centers built. And I'm in favor of that. I'm okay with that. But let's put them in the right place. Let's put them down at Savannah Riverside. That we've already got power right there. Let's put them at some of these nuclear plants that we have, and not put them out here.
Deserts? How about out in the deserts where we don't have people living? Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So let's put them in places where it's not going to affect our communities. Now, there might be some communities that are very rural that have no farming, maybe no economy going at all. Okay, I mean I'd be open to that, but it just doesn't sound like a.
And there is something that from a statewide level, because I know, and this doesn't something that you are part of, but on the local level, they're looking at changing some zoning laws and everything to include data centers. So on the state level, you have things that you can do to make sure that it is at least in somewhat controlled?
I would like to see that. I sure would. And I know we're going to probably see a lot of legislation this coming next term on that. And we need to be strong and protect our people. We've got to protect our way of life in South Carolina, number one.
That's true. Now, we haven't talked at all about the fish thing out there at Lake Greenwood. That's been quite a thing, and you've been involved in it trying to get answers, and even you can't get answers. So what's the answer, John?
Well, I give credit to Senator Garrett for raising the consciousness on this, because he wanted answers from day one, and I've kind of adopted his philosophy on this, and I want to do it too. We worked together on the Conisty Dam to make sure that was taken care of, to protect our lake, and now this. So I am committed and to finding out what in the world happened. It's not happening now. The water's testing safe. The sediment's testing safe. The environment is testing safe. The fish didn't die of lack of oxygen. That's an issue with me. So far what they're telling us is we don't know. Now we know what it's not. We know it's not continuing. We know a lot of things that it's not, but we want to know what it is.
Exactly.
And I think the residents want to know what it is. And I can throw crazy scenarios in the mix. I don't want to start rumors, but I was looking on some articles, and I saw where somebody dumped a meth lab waste in a creek, and it killed every fish in the entire creek, and even into a lake that it feeds into.
This is not in Greenwood.
Not in Greenwood. Right. Thank you for correcting on that.
You're
this
right.
was in Tennessee. So there have been instances of fish kills that were one-time things that haven't affected the environment overall, but there are things that can do this. So we just want to know. And
so when are you going to get the answer, John?
Well, let me tell you this: Myra Reese, the director of the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services, has been very, very cooperative when it comes to Greenwood. She talks to us. She makes sure that we get the latest on what they have going on, and especially if we ask her every week like I do. Mm-hmm. So I ask these people every week, what's going on? How come we don't know the answer? And she's generally been very cooperative. So has DNR. And, I believe that they are trying to find the answer. Okay, I believe that they have sent these fish off. I believe they are in laboratories being analyzed, but they're being analyzed for things that they don't normally do. So normally DNR looks at the oxygen levels and they'll say, oh, this was a turnover of the lake. They call it the turnover. There were low oxygen levels, and therefore, a lot of fish died. Well, that's the normal things they look for, and 99% of the time, that's the answer. Right. Something that they normally know about, maybe an algae bloom that's toxic or whatever. Well, none of the normal things worked in the beginning. None of the normal things came back as the answer. So now they're in the abnormal things. They're trying to figure out exactly what caused it, and that's where they're having the issue of trying to get laboratories to really analyze a lot of different things in the toxicology realm and all other things. So I believe they're trying. They've told me that they are. I post every time I find out something. I post it on Facebook because I want the people to understand that we're not going to give up until we get the answer. And so DES now understands that, and they're going to understand that we're going to get the answer. DNR understands that we're going to get the answer, so they're working to get us that answer. So I'm not going to give up. You know me, Ann. I'm not going to give up till we get it.
Right. So this is still ongoing. Seems a little hard to believe, but it is still ongoing. Well, John, we have spent a high-powered hour here talking about a lot of different issues and whatnot here. I wanted to give you a few minutes just to tell the folks why they should vote for you and what you plan to try to do futuristically. The floor is yours. Representative John McCravy, District 13, up for re-election, which is why we're doing this today, folks.
Well, thank you, Ann. I have worked hard to make sure that the interests of Greenwood are protected. The Conisty Dam is a perfect example of that, where we were able to get funding, crucial funding, to protect our lake. We've done a lot of things for Greenwood, and I want to keep representing Greenwood at least for the next 2 years, because I believe that we are making a difference in the legislature. We started up the family caucus, and I think the number one thing that we're supposed to do in the legislature is protect our children and set them up for success. And a lot plays into that. It's not just abortion. It's education. It's teacher raises. It's putting an SRO in every school. It's student privacy, making sure our kids are safe. It's social media. It's preventing them from getting bad substances to minors. It's protecting minors like we've done in the past from these surgeries where they're lied to that they can change their sex. And we've protected them in South Carolina from surgeries and drugs and things like that. I want to continue to do that. I want to continue to fight for our kids, and I want it to be a better place for my kids and my grandkids in the future. Also, taxes, government. Government and taxes is always an issue. And there's always people down in Columbia that want to take more of your taxes, not less. I want them to take less of your taxes, and I've been fighting to do that ever since I got there. Now, we have reduced a lot of taxes overall, but we need to continue to do that. We need to continue to reduce these property taxes for seniors. I'd love to do away with all property tax and just put it on the sales tax side. But to me, that's the biggest complaint I get is property taxes, and I want to go down there and continue to fight to reduce our property taxes. Government needs to get out of the way of small business. We got too many regulations, too many licenses, too many taxes on the small business. They tax everything a small business does, and I'm sick of it, and I want to see less and less of that. We did pass a law to stop this taxing of at least put a cap on taxing of personal property in your business, Ann.
Right.
So this desk that you're sitting here with it gets taxed every year as part of your taxes.
I know.
You know, the furniture in your doggone office. It's not enough to take your property taxes. It's not enough to take your income tax. It's not enough to take your business license tax. It's not enough to take your penny sales tax. It's not enough for all these other taxes. They got to tax the furniture you got. So we at least stop that. You know, I'm fighting to do away with all those taxes. But nevertheless, that's a big deal with me, reducing our taxes and getting government out of the way of small business. Another priority for me is this insurance. Insurance has gone up astronomically, has gone up not according to inflation, it's above inflation. So we've got a problem. Insurance companies are charging too much, and we got to figure out why. You know, we know that they make billions and billions and billions in profit. We know that. We know that they have to make a profit or they'll go out of business. But there's a balancing act there. And, you know, to go up unreasonably on people, that's not right. And especially with restaurants. Now, we've started tackling that problem with restaurants and what they call the liquor liability thing. We've started attacking that. We passed a bill allowing businesses to take less on the maximum amount of $1 million. They can bring that down to, I think, $250,000 if they just train their servers. If they close at midnight, you know, it comes down and down. The insurance companies told us that they would respond if we did that. So far, I haven't heard much response. Right. So the restaurant owners I'm talking to say the insurance companies haven't done anything yet. So it's time to attack the insurance companies now, because it sounds like they're more the problem than anything else. So, you know, we've got to do something to get those.
Is that one of the things you want to work on next year?
It is.
Next session?
It is.
Yes.
You know, and I've voted for every single insurance reform bill that has come through to try to stop this, to try to keep from our insurance from going up, and I'm going to continue to do that. You know, and I voted for every tort reform bill. People say, you know, talk about tort reform. Well, we voted for 3 different tort reform bills in South Carolina already this year, you know, reducing the liability of hospitals, reducing this and that, trying to lower those insurance rates. So we're doing what we can, but I think we need to do more on that area. And, you know, the big another big thing is the budget, which we talked about. We've got to stop. You know, I'm down there trying to stop the establishment, I guess you would call it, from these boondoggles. We got to figure out a way to get these things out of the budget. You know, Scout Motors $100 million boondoggle.
$32 million for an island.
$32 million for an island. Raising legislator pay. These are the kind of things we don't need to do. Funding drag shows. You know, we've got to have a better system, and I plan to talk to the leadership next year and this summer. Look, we got a better way. We need a better way to amend the budget, because on the floor these things can be fixed. But we got to change this germaneness rule, because it's preventing people like me from actually making a difference in the budget. So we got to stop that, and we got to change our rule on that. So I favor that as well. You know, y'all know what people in Greenwood pretty much know what I stand for. I'm a Christian conservative. I don't hide that fact. I vote for Christian conservative issues, and we got voting coming up this week. So starting today, I'm asking my supporters to get out and vote. If you're not my supporter, stay at home. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. But I'm just kidding. But, you know,
I bet you would like the opportunity to talk to them, though, so that they understand your positions.
That's
maybe
right.
A little better.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just kidding about that. And I want everybody to get out and vote. I really do. I think that's what makes America great, is when everybody participates in the process and everybody gets out and exercises their right to vote. I mean, that's important. But the voting, the polls are going to be open. We got early voting starting this week, starting today,
right,
at the library and at the visitor center in 96. Those are the only 2 places that are open during early voting, but they're going to be open this week and next week through Friday, 8:30 to 5 o'clock. Following that, the following Tuesday will be Election Day, which is June the 9th. You know, get out there and bank your votes early. I think that's very important. It's important because something could come up. You might not get there on Election Day. You know, people are busy. I know just like me, I'm busy. I'm a citizen just like everybody else. I've got things I've got to do.
Are you voting today?
I may get out there and vote this afternoon. I talked to my wife this morning. I said, when can we go vote? And she said, well, this morning I've got a lot of errands to run, but maybe this afternoon. So looks like I may be waiting until this afternoon, but I'm going to get out there and vote. So I appreciate everybody that does that. And so that's kind of the reason I'm running, Ann. And I want to continue to do what we've been doing. I want to continue to improve our state and make it a place you want to raise your family and raise your kids.
Now, if somebody wants to contact you, John, or wants to find out more about you, what should they do?
All they got to do is dial my cell phone, 864-396-3110. That shows you how old I am saying dial. We press now. So press my phone number and look, text me first. If I'm not on you might be in my contacts, because a lot of people, I've got thousands of contacts. If you're not already in my contact list, just text me and tell me who you are and your phone number, and I'll give you a call back. I think, I want to stand for what's right in Greenwood. I want to continue to help our people. And I want to continue to do what's right on the state level and make sure our state continues to be a place that people want to move to. People want to move here, and why? They tell me when I go out and talk to people that moved here from California and New York, they say, don't change a thing. Keep it like it is, please.
And
please
what do you tell them? Don't bring your attitudes to us here, right? Yeah, there you go.
That's right. But anyway, I think the majority of people that have moved in our district here in Greenwood, they enjoy our conservative values, and they enjoy our state the way it is. So they say don't change it, and that's what the idea is. Keep it a great place and make it a better place to raise your family.
Absolutely. We have been having Representative John McCravy with us here this morning. This, of course, will be on Facebook for the next 30 days, so if you missed it or didn't get to hear the whole thing, you can go back and watch it, listen to it on Facebook. You also can go to our website, WCRS1450am.net. And in the next week or so, I believe we're going to have all of our interviews will be on Spotify and iTunes, so you'll be able to catch them there too. I do want to remind you that today is a great day to call 864-332-9355 and nominate a business, a group that you think would be deserving of breakfast for a bunch with Chick-fil-A. That's right. So do that today, 864-332-9355. Yes, you can nominate your own business. Yes, you can be part of that group. Just pick up that phone and call them today, 864-332-9355. Do something delightful and surprising from Chick-fil-A and WCRS Radio. John, thank you so much for coming on today.
Well, thank you. I brought you some peanut butter, and it's great to see Penny over here. She's been very attentive. She's turned into a really good talk show host.
She takes her job seriously. That's true. She does. That's going to do it for us. I'll be back this afternoon at 5, where we'll be talking about all the gardens and whatnot with the Festival of Flowers. You don't want to miss it. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye. Let's see. Here we go.